Hey everyone, my name is Daniel, and in today's video, I'm going to deep dive into an easier way to manage Power Platform developer environments. So we'll quickly start by talking about what an environment is all about, and then we will deep dive into the developer environment concept. I'll explain to you what it is all about, I'll explain to you what you can and cannot do with it, and I'll also spend some time on how you can apply some governance rules to it. So stick around because this is very important both from a power user, developer, and from an administrative standpoint. But first, here's my intro video. So let's get started. First, I just want to give you a quick overview on what an environment is all about because it's important that you know that. Now, environment, sometimes also you may hear the concept of call as containers because you can contain all your stuff in one location. And by stuff, I mean access to that one place or a set of apps or flows or chatbots and its data sources all in this one environment. And it's very interesting how you actually want to go ahead and create those environments. You can go and create those environments at a department level or at a location level. So you can see over here in my image, I've actually got three different types of containers. I've got one based in the US location, one based in the Canada location, and the other one based in Australia. But for each of those geolocations, you can also go and put it as a prod, as a test, as a dev. So it just gives you an overview of how you can actually go ahead and mix and match these containers, but more importantly, what it is there for. And that is to isolate and separate people to touch different things. It really helps it from a granular permission standpoint. So now that you understand the concept of environment, let's switch gears and talk about developer environment. And as you immediately notice, we're talking about a developer as a single person. So this is a type of environment tied to a single user. It is not tied to an entire geolocation or an entire department. And it is a restricted environment, specifically there for testing and playing when you build solutions which has apps and flows. In addition, it is an ideal replacement for the default environment. And the default environment is that one central location which you absolutely have access to, and there's nothing you can do about it. Everybody who has access to your Power Apps and Power Automate has access to the default environment. And therefore, the developer environment can actually help you even do some governance control on that default environment. You actually allow users to have their own dedicated developer environment, and that is where they do testing. So that's why I say it's an ideal replacement for the default environment. Next, it does not utilize the capacity of your Power Platform services. And I know this statement brings a lot of smile on the Power Platform admins because one of the things admins do is we monitor the capacity of our Power Platform tenant, is how much capacity we have left, because based on that, we can actually plan to see how many more environments can be created. But the beauty of the developer environment is it does not consume from your capacity. It is actually free information. It is actually free capacity automatically added, dedicated to that developer environment. And that's why I went and put this last line, is because the developer environment comes with a plan, and that plan gives you additional environments for free. So hopefully this gives you an overview of what a developer environment is. Now, before I jump into the actual hands-on demonstration of it, I do want to talk about what you can do with it. So the first thing you can do with it is create up to three developer environments, which is pretty sweet. Next, it is a place to create, test, and share apps and solutions. So when you hear share, the first question that comes to your mind is, Daniel, can I actually invite others to use my environment? And the answer to that is yes. When you're testing your apps, you can actually invite other people into your developer apps, which means you can actually share your apps with other people and you can do some testing. And there are some limitations to that as well, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Next, you can use Dataverse over here, which is awesome because Dataverse is a premium type of a connection because you have to go ahead and have some capacity tied to it. And in the developer one, you are automatically assigned that. You are given the access to it. So it's pretty neat. Over here, you can also go and use connectors. Now, granted, in your connectors, you still are bound by your policy tied in your environment. But hey, those connectors can be used over here as well. Now, you can also apply a very specific data policy for these developer environments. And this is something that people do tend to miss. One of the reasons because you can only do this through PowerShell. But if you've got a list of developer environments, you can apply a very specific policy to those developer environments as well. So that's actually pretty awesome from the get-go when it comes to governance. Also, you can go ahead and disable a developer environment type. This can only be done through a PowerShell script. I've actually provided you that one line command that you need to run. So if for whatever reason your company doesn't allow it, you have the option to go ahead and disable it. So these were just these were the 6 things of what you can do with it. I'm also going to talk about what you cannot do with it. But first, let's have some hands-on experience of what these developer environments are all about. So I've signed into a test tenant, and let me introduce you to Adele. Now, Adele over here is a developer, and Adele has actually made some great use of this developer environment functionality. And just to show it to you, if you go and click on the app launcher, I go and click on the Power Automate. You can do this for Power Apps as well. Both of them are fine. Once you go ahead and load into it, when you come on the top right, you see the default environment. But when I click on the drop down, you can see that Adele actually has 3 environments. And this is a very normal naming convention that happens because you will always see Adele Vance and her last name always has an apostrophe S, and then you will see these other environments. Now the neat thing is that Adele can actually go and create up to 3. 3 is the limit that is created. And you can see it over here. In addition, if I go and now sign in as the admin right over here, this is the Power Platform Admin Center. The person who signed in over here is actually a Power Platform administrator who has the Power Platform admin role. If I go to my environments, right over there, you will see that it is of a type developer. You see over here, there is the default one. You will have production, you will have sandbox. This one is very specific of type developer. And like I said, this one has Dataverse along with it. So it's pretty awesome that out of the box, a user can get up to 3. And over there, each of them has access to Dataverse. So I'm going to switch back over here to take a look at what Adele has. And if I go to any one of them, all right, let's just go to this one over here. That is the one that we are signing in directly to that developer environment. See, it shows developer environment. The first thing I want your eyes to focus on is this important label that comes up. This is to tell Adele and any developers that, hey, this is a developer environment and it is not meant for production use. Now, between you and me, I really wish that this was a huge big label for everybody to see. But hey, at least it's there for the developers to know that one of the important things is this is not meant for production. So literally do what the label says, that it's for development purposes. And it's not just only on the first one. If I go out to the other one, which is say her environment number 2, even on the second one, it says this is a developer environment, not meant for production. And I switch gears to the third one, final one. Over there, you also see the exact same label saying that this is a developer environment, not meant for production use. So I really want to grill this into you, saying that these developer environments are there for testing and for playing. And yes, you can share it with other people, but it is not meant for production. It is meant for testing purposes only. But the testing is not limited to just playing around. Over there, Adele can actually go ahead and build full-blown applications to do some testing. And that's pretty neat because developer environments take the load off that default environment, which makes governance of the default environment so much easier. In addition, out of the box, everyday users do not have elevated access in the default environment. However, in this case, once you have a developer environment, you've got full environment owner level access, which means you've got Uber level access in your developer environment. That is where you can go and fully utilize and do all the learning that you need to do. So this was the example of Adele, our existing developer. What I want to do is now switch gears and take you over to Christy's world, because in Christy is also a developer. However, Christy is now going to go and create these developer environments for the first time. So I want to walk you through how that happens. Now, I'm going to open up another tab and we have to go to this very specific URL. This URL, by the way, is in the description below. You can go and access it. So you have 2 options over here. It says get started free, or are you an existing user? Add a dev environment. And the main difference between the 2 is to make sure what license has already been assigned to you. Because if you have nothing assigned, you are just an M365 user, then the one that you want is get started free. And that is exactly the same situation we have over here as Christy. Christy is just an M365 user Christy does not have any of the licenses. So we're going to go and follow this first path, which is get started free. So what it needs is the entire email address, which is I'm going to put in over here, right? That was the full email address. Then I'm going to go and click on next. After that, it says, let's get started. It says, hey, it looks like you're already in the Microsoft 365 customer. Go ahead and sign in. So I'll go ahead and sign in. It is authenticating. Since I already have the access done over here, it's all good. I'll go ahead and put in a phone number in this case. You have to put something in, acknowledge it, get started, and voila, we are here to get started. So now I'm going to go and click on the get started. Now, when I go and get started, watch this URL. It says make.powerapps.com, home, often, everything, and it automatically goes, and yes, this contact information comes up. I'll ignore it from now, but it automatically went ahead and created our first environment, Christy Client's environment. And we know it is a developer environment because right over here, it actually told us that this is a developer environment and not meant for production once. It's giving me this little warning message over here, but that's because of any conditional access policies, which is really good because all those policies that you've applied at your tenant level directly apply inside your developer environment, which is really good from a governance standpoint. Hopefully that gives you a peace of mind that developers can't go crazy. No, they are still bound by the security that you've already applied. So this is the first thing, all right? We went ahead and created one over here. Now, Christy can go ahead and create a second one, a second developer environment as well. And Christy can do it directly over here. So again, I'm just in as Christy, all right? Christy is not a Power Platform admin. I'll go in over here into my settings, into my admin setting. We come into the admin.powerplatform.com. I'll click on the get started. Once again, confirming it is only Christy. I go to my environments, and in the environments, it says, hey, a new environment has been created. Great. And this is all that Christy sees. Christy is just able to see her own developer environment, doesn't even see the default environment or any of the other ones that we have over here. So I can go and click on plus new, and on the plus new, Christy literally cannot create any of these other types of environments. Cannot create a sandbox one, production one, not even a trial. The only thing Christy can do is developer one. So in the developer one over here, I'm going to go and say Christy's environment. The group one, I'm going to go and say developer group. And over here, it's going to be United States. Developer is of a type developer. See, add a Dataverse store. By default, it is selected as yes, or it is toggled on, and it is grayed out, which means I do not have the option to even turn it off. Next, I'll go and click on the next button. It's going and giving me all of these other things. Do I want to deploy any sample apps? Sure. I'll click on yes, and I'll click on save. So now the second developer environment is also being created. It's actually saying preparing. In this one, once it finishes, it'll actually go and say Dataverse is also there. But this is how Christy was able to go and create the second one. And if I go and click on refresh, you will see that now the Dataverse is also ready. Now what I want to do is focus a little bit on the administrative side, and I'll show you this one governance rule that you can apply and how that will also affect an existing developer user. So let me switch back and now go to my Power Platform admin person. So right over here, this is the Power Platform admin, actually has the Power Platform admin role. By the way, if I go and refresh it, now that Power Platform admin can see both of Christy's one as well. See, these are the two that we just created. Pretty neat, full view of everything what's going on. But let's focus on the governance rules. So when I go into my settings, on my settings, right over here, there is something called as Developer Environment Assignments. When you click on this radio button, on the right, you actually see an overview and some options that you have. So what I'm going to do is change it to only specific admins. Select that radio button. I'll go and click on save. And over here, it tells me your settings has been saved successfully. All right. So now if I just go back and double verify, if I go back into my developer environments, I make sure that only specific admins can make it. So let's go back over here as Christy and see what all she can do. So I'm going to go back in as Christy. This is where Christy went into the Power Platform Admin Center to create that environment. And just to make sure, I'll go and actually do a refresh. So if I go and click on the plus on that side, we're going to go and select it as the developer one. And I'll go and give this as a developer 3. I don't have to create a group. I can go and select, I don't have to select a group. I can go and leave that as blank. Everything else looks good. I'll go and click on next. Now it's coming back next. Over here on the save side, I'll click on save. and it gave me this message. It says, your tenant's administrators have disabled developer environment creation for non-admin users. So you see the difference now. We've applied a governance policy right over here at the developer side. But we can't end over here because we need a way to create now an environment for Christy. So now the admins have full control over this. And let me show you how an admin can do. So we're going to switch gears now and go back as the admin. Again, when we come over here, admins see all of them. So now I'm going to click on plus new. And over here, I'm going to go and give this as a name. I'm going to call this as Christie's third dev environment. Group, I can leave that as blank. Type, that's important. That's going to be developer. And now when I click on developer, there is this option called create on behalf. This wasn't there before, but now we as the Power Platform admins are creating it on behalf over here. So this is correct. I'm going to create it on behalf. And then who's the owner? Well, that owner is going to be Christy. So let me start typing in that name. And there you go. Christy Klein shows up perfectly. And everything else is just the same as when Christy herself was creating it. Dataverse option is turned on, grayed on by default, which is great. So I'll click on next. Do you want to deploy the sample apps? Sure. I'll say yes to that. Click on save. And now it is being saved. Again, it is being saved by the Power Platform admin creating it. The third environment is getting created over here. It is going through the process. And if I go and switch back over now to Christy, this is where Christy was having that error. Let's see if I go and refresh it over here. Is Christy able to see her environment? Right over here, see that environment came in perfectly. And just to make sure, if I come outside over here into the Power App side or in the Power Automate side, if I do a refresh and if I click on the top right, you can see that the other environment is showing in as well. This is how we can continue to give people the developer environments, but put a little bit of governance policy around that, where the Power Platform admins has a full access to do it. So this is neat because say if you've got an intake process for creation of an environment, now you can use that intake process also for these developer environments so that the whole thing doesn't just go crazy, it still goes through a process. There is also another out-of-the-box governance rule which is applied, and that is zero usage. What that means is that if you have had zero activity in your developer environment for 90 days, then that environment will automatically be disabled, and it stays disabled for up to 30 days. And once that 30 days is passed, that environment will get deleted. Now, you can go ahead and retract that environment back depending on the policy that you've created, because most of the times you can go ahead and retrieve an environment which is 7 days or less old. So you can go and get that back. And the same thing applies over here as well, is that if a developer environment has been deleted, you can go and retract that back again. But as a recap, if there is no activity for 90 days, then it automatically gets disabled and it stays disabled for 30 days. And after 30 days, it gets deleted. This is the second out-of-the-box governance policy applied to these developer environments. So this is a good time for me to talk about what you cannot do. And some of these I've already mentioned it, but let's go over them anyway. The first thing is you cannot leverage this for production work. And there is already a label on the top that reminds you of that. Second is you cannot create access to this using any of your personal account like Gmail or Yahoo Mail. When I was actually showing you the demo over there, I had to use a dedicated tenant account to go and create that. So it is used using a legitimate company account. You just cannot use any one of these personal accounts. You cannot go ahead and build advanced things such as robotic process automation. Now, I know that needs additional licenses and you could go ahead and sign up for trial with it, but out of the box, using this developer account, you cannot build robotic process automation. Same thing goes for the AI builder. You cannot go ahead and build it because with the developer, no additional credits are included. Also, because there is a limitation on the number of flows and the capacity, out of the box, you cannot install any Dynamics 365 apps that come along with it. Also, this plan, this developer plan that you get, you cannot go ahead and use that in any other environment. And what I mean is that the up to 3 developer environments you get, over there you can go ahead and use Dataverse and you can create the data source, but you cannot go ahead and use that Dataverse or that plan to any other environments. This system will monitor and make sure all this developer plan gets tied to those developer environments only. And finally, it is the zero activity, which means that this environment needs to be active. The moment you don't go and show any activity over there, it first gets disabled, and then afterwards, it will get deleted. So in conclusion, here are a few things I want to point out. And first of all, this name called developer environments, that does tend to confuse and concern a few of those regulated companies, because it's one thing to let power users go ahead and give them access, but now you're giving developers also access. And if you come over here into these environments, the one we created, you actually see that it is of a type environment. Now, the terminology developer can be misleading. What all they're saying is this is an environment where people can go ahead and develop their own testing or learning apps. That's all that term developer means. It's not of a type of the person, but it's type of the environment. But it would have been nice if this type also had changed instead of developer to say my environment, or something even similar to how we have OneDrive, call something as that. So that's the first thing. Second one is this actual text we have over here. So when I go in now as a user, the text over there, it says this is a developer environment and not meant for production use. This looks and feels of a type font, say 10, size 10. I really wish this was big and bold, so then when users come in, the first thing that catches their eye is right over here. It's saying that this is a developer environment, not for production use, or maybe some pop-up that comes in, or even better, give the admins, the Power Platform admins, the control to go and say what they want to say over here. The third thing is actually pretty good, is that there is limitations of what you can do over here. So it says, here are the capacity limits for the developer environment. The flow runs, you are only limited to 750 a month. A month, this is not even a day. So this is good because it's enforcing the less utilization of this environment. And if for some reason, people went ahead and even ignored this text over here and they started production work, any flow that they build is pretty much going to die really fast because of this limit on that side. And the last thing is the environment routing. So in your Power Platform Admin Center, you see this environment groups. In that environment groups, there is something called as environment routing. And the prerequisite to that is actually this group. So remember when I was actually creating those developer environments, a group name came out? Well, that was me actually testing this to also get you excited, because I'm going to do a separate video just on this topic. But this is where the developer group came out. It's not out of the box in Power Platform Admin Center. This is something that I created so that in this group, I can go and assign some very specific rules. Rules such as in developer environments, you cannot go ahead and share it with security groups and put the limit to sharing to only 5 people. That's one of the wow factors on these environment groups that are created, and how you can go ahead and take it to the next level using environment routing. But I'll save all of this for another video. So my primary reason to build this video is to provide you the knowledge that you need to make an informed decision of how to leverage these developer environments. And one of the key things is use that governance which is provided, which is disable the automatic creation of the developer environments so that only admins can create it using the way that I showed you. That way, if you've got any pre-approval process like a ticketing system or an intake request, let the developers submit that. You have a record of it, and then afterwards somebody can go and actually create that developer environment. That would be a win-win situation. And secondly, let the name not confuse you. Yes, it is called as developer environment, but this is not where heavy developers go ahead and start building apps, because remember, there's a limit to it. Remember that 750 flows per month, there's a heavy limit to it. So this is for testing, playing, and learning. So I highly urge you to consider using this, because this also lays the foundation for some future features that are coming out, specific things such as leveraging environment groups and environment routing. So hopefully this video has been useful to you, and as always, keep using Power Platform. Hello. So if you like this video, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and smash that like button. Also, if you have a few extra seconds, can you go ahead and put in a comment? Either say something nice or give me ideas for my next video. And until then, see ya.